impressed with the literary interest of this crowd. This is the first Bagels and Books launch, and those of you that know me a little bit wouldn't be surprised to know that I was recommending we don't give out any bagels until after I read a few short stories, and but I was overruled by the power structure. So we do want to thank and appreciate KC Cafe in Waterbury for baking these bagels on a Saturday morning. So by way of introduction, I'm Ken Libertoff, and I had a few words just to start with. I am a man of few words. All of this started 5 years ago, which is, pretty remarkable, frankly, in my life's course, because up until that time, I had no notion of writing or whatever, but I happened to be in the Kellogg Library, and I saw a sign, kind of a handwritten sign down the hall, and the only thing I could read, which was the larger print, was free. And thinking that free is a very attractive concept, and I was thinking maybe it's free old paperbacks, about the last thing older people need. I couldn't help myself, and I walked down. And anyway, it was a short announcement that a Goddard College graduate student, as part of his program in writing, was going to be leading 4 sessions. And I don't know what got into me, being a man certainly of an age of a certain routine and adverse to trying anything new. I signed up, and I went to the first class, and it was very apparent I was way over my head, and a number of the people had been writing for 10 years, or 15 years, or 20 years. And the instructors gave us an assignment, which I wrote down, and it was, sort of a key word to write for the next session. And knowing nothing about how these things work, I ended up writing a very ridiculous short story of 3 or 4 pages. And the subject matter was very deep. It was about an infatuation I had with the senior cheerleader at Far Rockaway High School. I was a sophomore, and it was quite a engaging, rollicking little tale. And I figured, well, okay, I'll get the paperback. This Goddard graduate student would mark it up in red pen, and I'd be interested to see what he had to say. I'd never written anything. So I get to class the next week, and he says, as you all know, you must read what you wrote to the rest of the class. And I have to admit that, like, the first 3 presentations were these deep philosophical short pieces that I could hardly understand, but everybody else is nodding, this is really good. And then there were some beautiful poems, and certainly a number of pieces about nature in Vermont. And I was the last one to go, but then my face was very red, and I ended up reading it, and much to my surprise, even though the subject matter didn't quite match some of the standards of others, a number of students came up afterward and said, gee, that was well done, or that was funny, or that was quite a story. I didn't know how to interpret that. But, so here we are, 5 years later. That was my start, and I'm certainly humbled, and I'm also proud, and I'm glad that But I had no plan and no training and really no background in this field. And I can say that 5 years later, here it is. So I think a number of you are familiar with Rootstock Publishing, and Samantha is here from Rootstock, although I don't know where she is. Okay, she's over there, Samantha. And Samantha ended up, in many ways, being very supportive as I sent in some material. And one of the most shocking developments in the last year or two is to get a letter back saying, we really want to publish what you wrote, which is a long way from where I started. The one thing I'll tell you is that at age 79, I really don't want anybody coming up and using, the expression like, you're really a young literary phenom. I would appreciate it if we keep everything in balance and not get carried away. So this is the book launch, and I've been told that, the sort of general procedure is I'm going to read little excerpts from a few of my stories. Some are a little more uplifting than others. Some are, as life is, varied, great times, difficult times. And I'm glad that we not only have bagels, but we have hot coffee. And while you sit and munch, certainly I will try to give you some snapshots of certain stories. I think, most of you know, if you look, those who have a book in front, that my name is on the cover, which of course is good for my deflated ego. But you'll notice when you get into about 3 or 4 pages, I was told you have to have a dedication. And when I mentioned this to a friend, they said, did you really dedicate it to Taylor Swift? And I did not. I dedicated it to my amazing wife, Sarah Hoffman. I have a number of dear family. I'm not going to go through everybody who's here, but my son from New Mexico, my sister from Connecticut, and my granddaughter from Brooklyn. It's a good start. So I progressed and was told that there's a terrific person at the Montpelier Senior Center, and that she had been leading writing groups, and I should try to pursue my fledgling career a few years ago and sign up for this class. And there was a big problem because I was very familiar with a lot of the wonderful things that the Senior Activity Center does. But every time I walked by, I would say, I'm much too young for that place. I'm not going. So humbled that I was, I kind of snuck into the place. It happens to be right across from the gym on Barry Street. And not totally wanting some of my friends who were going to the gym to see me, I kind of ducked down low and signed up. And it turned out to be an amazing experience. I think Maggie Thompson is here.
Way in the back. Way in the back.
Maggie Thompson. So Maggie, as much as anybody, really has been my mentor and inspiration. And she may look very tough and gruff, like a, Alabama football coach, but she is supportive in so many ways, especially to somebody who had no idea really what they were doing. And I participated in a number of classes or groups or writing groups through the Senior Center with Maggie leading the way. One of the other things that I have to tell you is that I was incredibly inspired by the other people in those classes. Many of them had been writing for years and years. And in some ways, I really do owe, and some of them are here. I want to make sure I tell you that your willingness to express personal stories, some funny, some just interesting, and some painful, really was an inspiration. And to those classmates, really, I really say thank you, because you really helped launch my writing career when I could see the power of what short stories could be and personal stories. So I continued writing these stories in no sequence or whatever. Maggie with a whip would, give out a keyword, and I'd write around that word. It might be Vermont weather, and you could pick the kind of day you like. And then another person played a very central role, and I don't know if Carla Cassio is here. I haven't seen her. But Carla happens to be a neighbor of mine up on near Sparrow Farm Road, and I was very good friends with her parents. But Carla also is not only a writer herself, but she was then the editor of the Montpelier Bridge. And as we do in Vermont, she pulled her car over on the side of the road one day and said, what are you up to? And I said, well, I started this little writing thing. And before I know it, she said, why don't you drop a couple of the stories in my mailbox, in her mailbox? And nobody had seen these stories. And the next thing I know, Carla printed one of those stories on the front page of the Montpelier Bridge. I was totally startled. And with that, I'm going to read excerpts of the stories. Some of them might be too long, and I don't think people, want to be here for nightfall.